Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the latest edition of the Quantum Compass. In today's fortnightly preview, we will be looking at the upcoming wavespell of the yellow magnetic human running from March the 11th to the 23rd. And in this 13-day or trisana period, we also have a new moon in Pisces. We have a three-eye atlas flyby of Jupiter. We have here in the Northern Hemisphere spring equinox or autumn equinox down under. We have Jupiter and Mercury going direct, and we also have a Neptune Cazimi. Wow. Welcome back. My name is David.
And I'm Bella, and we have lots to talk about for this wave spell. Yeah.
Alrighty, everybody. So I think there's been a fair amount of shake, rattle, and roll, a bit of wham bam, thank you, ma'am, and everything else in between already during this blue magnetic storm wave spell. And we are recording this a little early, aren't we, Bella? On today, actually, which is the planetary tone, the planetary star, because there have already been some pretty significant transits this morning. I was woken up on the dot at 5 o'clock as Mercury combusted. Shortly followed by Venus conjuncting Neptune about half an hour later. And then this evening, this is all central time, of course, this evening, Black Moon Lilith faces off against the nodes of fate, i.e., the north node of the future and the south node of the past. And where is Black Moon Lilith? In her favorite place, in Scorpio, kicking up dirt from any layer of the underworld that she can find. Because it's at that point now where we need to release and purify everything that is going on. So, yeah, where would you like to start, Bella? We've sort of been doing reviews of the wave spells as they round out.
Yeah, we'll go into the review of the storm, which is very important, knowing what is happening in the world as the storm hit us. But let's start with what you just mentioned with the Cassimi.
Yes.
Mercury, because what we were just looking at is that it brings a lot of clarity in the middle of this confusion. And so this is a good moment. We look for those windows to put the messages through.
Yeah.
And it's a good moment of profound clarity, a mental reset, maybe some downloads. So today is a good day for you to do your reflections and reconnect with those other parts of yourself, but also with other people. We're trying to reconnect with people, and many people from the past are coming back because this Cassimi happened as Mercury is retrograde.
Right, yes. And interestingly, this wave spell, Mercury goes direct on Equinox, which is also in the Mayan calendar a planetary day, red planetary dragon. That looks like a very powerful day.
Mm.
And so, yes, this morning, Mercury in retrograde, Cazimi at about, I think, 11 a.m. UTC, 5 a.m. Central Time. And I can say from the moment it woke me up, all I've done this morning is write emails, project plans, and a whole bunch of other stuff that involves communication before I finally realized at about 11 o'clock with my coffee of the morning that actually it was the Cazimi that woke me up. But maybe, like me, many of you are not sleeping that much generally anyway. I'm averaging only about 5 hours at the moment, and I know that that's even more than some of you out there. So,
And many people complaining of aches and pains all over the body, the back, the joints, and lots of different symptoms. So we'll touch on a few of those things. Let's get into the
yeah, and also the plant of this waste spell will actually address many of those issues that we've just talked about. So, yeah, let's get into the presentation and we'll just flow through it. All right. So here we are, March the 11th to the 23rd.
Yeah, so this is a wave spell of the yellow human, and it's very good that this is the flow after the storm, and we'll show why. So during this show, if you're new, we're going to talk about the Mayan cosmology, about the astrology from the 13th sign, true constellational perspective. We'll be mentioning the equinox, three-eye atlas coming close to Jupiter, and then plants and nature, which is the ones that are calling us back to reconfigure this grid of energy that we all belong to, and to make sure that we have done all of the processes so we continue with the ascension process. And I just added this picture on the right because the equinox, if some of you caught the videos on the mini series about the sun, this is the moment where many sites are aligned to that specific moment when the sun goes through the equator. So we'll talk more about that too.
Right, and of course, in the tropical system, it is the Aries equinox, but we're using the 13th sign here. So It's just an equinox. We can't call it the northern hemisphere, otherwise everyone down south
So
sort of
it is a very
yeah.
important moment because it's an equinox for both northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere, but just changing the seasons. But it is very important for the whole planet. It's like a moment of rebalancing, of light and dark coming to a point of balance. And the same for us because we're all connected to the grid as well.
Yeah, it's a perfect moment of equilibrium. And if you watched last week's show, we called in Nettle the perfect plant to enter into this process for the equinox because it's a plant that likes to balance this as an adaptogen. So it feels very much like a reset moment, hence
Mhm.
why the piece about the Mercury Cazimi this morning, even though it's in the storm wave spells, feels super relevant. And of course, that transit this evening with Black Moon Lilith square in the node speaks very much of point number one here on your energy update, which is what's been happening during the storm. Now, long-term watchers of this show will know that we generally try to steer clear of getting into the nitty-gritty of what is going on, and the collective narratives or preferring rather to sort of soar above that and go to a 5D perspective. But really and truly, whatever is going on in the narratives, it's actually just a reflection of the energetic blueprints and frequencies at play. And of course, they have to display themselves somehow in 3D. And what we can tell is that this, well, let's just call it the, as Bella has here, the war situation is actually the resolution of many, many lingering problems, which Mercury Cazimi is good at dealing with, to do with old karmic issues, to do with geopolitics, to do with many, many things to do with the fall into 3D dimensionality and many other things too that actually date back to Lemurian Atlantis. All of this,
Mhm.
confusingly, probably for most people, is in the viewfinder literally right now, maybe even this weekend. There are a lot of us feeling the energies upon us, and we're not at all concerned. We know that in the midst of a collapse and a phoenix moment, there has to be the collapse, and we're witnessing it. But the truth is that we're never better positioned now than ever. This is the best. I think this is the furthest we've ever got into this process, right, Bella?
Right. And here's where we have, with everything that we have done, reached a point of non-duality
Yes.
when we understand that this process, the storm comes to catalyze. And at the moment, it looks like war. And not that we like the idea of war, but we understand that even the whole connection to being biblical, a biblical moment, and a dissolution of lots of old paradigms and many things that have happened for a long time to do with karma, with geopolitics, with lies, with the economic system, and how things are run. And let's remember that the other catalyzer are the Epstein files and how it connects to so many different countries, governments, different routes of finances, and everything is interconnected. So here is where the veil is being dissolved through this difficult process of war, which we hope it won't last too long, but is where people need to see where is the poison that needs to be cleansed.
Right, well said. And I've framed this in my own way, which weirdly really dates back to the very first astrological piece I did years ago with the wonderful astrologer Pam Gregory, which is called Organic versus Inorganic. And I perceive from my meditations this week that this is exactly where we're at. The organic energies of Mother Earth, what we would call the creative fairy kingdom, perhaps, and its expansive creative energies, as opposed to the inorganic, very restrictive, often destructive energies of, well, we can call it modern technology, but if we take it a step further, we can even call it perhaps something else. And these two forces are basically at an existential crisis point. The two cannot exist in the same space because one wants to destroy what the other wants to create. That is, of course, also duality. And so we've been learning about this. And it's a hard lesson, but if you are still in a place where you are being divided even by what is going on in this war situation, then you're still being manipulated and triggered by the whole situation. Because truly, when you rise above it and look at it from both sides of the coin, you get a very, very different perspective from that non-dual eagle's perch. And I really, really invite all of you to do meditations until you get to that space because it makes it a lot easier on you and allows a lot of things to kind of ripple out in that nettle kind of equipoise, right, Bella?
Yeah, besides what I understand from lots of other different channels is that by the time we get that 3i Atlas gets to Jupiter, which is like the control command for the solar system, and with the equinox also being a marker for resurrection and for a point of reset reset for all of us as well. It feels that we're all working towards that marker. I understand that the galactic beings have given ultimatums to those in charge of the planet to let go of control, and they have up to that deadline. So we're building up to that very important moment, which feels to me a resurrection for the whole planet.
I absolutely agree, which is why tomorrow, which will be the Liberation Day, at least for us in this time zone, with this Wavespell in the storm on March the 8th, feels really, really significant. Venus will also be conjuncting Saturn, so the planet of love and of the heart and of the goddess is having a good, strong conversation with those giants, Neptune and Saturn, ahead of certainly Neptune and then Saturn getting Cazimi'd. So I think there's a lot in this because they're both in Pisces, and this is very much about the watery return of the Atlantean blueprint. Many people also now connecting and channeling into Lemurian energy, which of course is very watery and very yin. But as another channel that we've watched recently has been saying, you know, we're not going to go back to an Atlantis or a Lemuria as it was because we can't, because we've already evolved from those times into a different space. So however we re-enter those blueprints, those etheric blueprints that are now being downloaded, and many have already been downloaded into the planetary grid, we're going to enter the blueprints from a different state of being than last time we entered those blueprints. And I think that's a really significant point that isn't easy to explain because we haven't got there yet. We're still in the middle of it.
And the other important thing is that we're entering now, today, the moon of the Jaguar, the ninth moon out of the 13 moons. And it tells us we've got to go shamanic mode for this part of the journey. Bring all of the tools that you have learned up to this point. And then the yellow human wave spell will end with the cosmic seed. It's perfect. It's like taking us to a cosmic human level. So let's get into it because
Yeah,
there are lots of things. We're already going into it.
yeah.
So we'll start with the cosmology, the Mayan cosmology. We're still following the 13 moons, which started on the 26th of July of 2025. So it's a year of the resonant seed, the moment where we all realign as cosmic seeds. And we've been seeing this with the connection with Three Eye Atlas and these codes, the activation of lots of people, the mass awakening, and people realigning to their true purposes.
Right, and so we're just going to take a short break for just a couple of minutes where you'll get to hear me talking about a brand new initiative that sits alongside the Sacred Book of Nature, but this is going to be a more regular deep dive seasonally into many, many plants. Perhaps on a sort of a weekly basis, I'll be doing deep dives that you can attend. So just check out this little advert on this, and we'll see you again in a few minutes. Hi, everybody. Just a quick note from myself, Davyd, or perhaps rather I should say Dristan Skywalker, for it is really him that will be sharing a ongoing series of tales from a new Earth greenhouse. Dristan is, of course, very much connected to myself, Davyd, and somehow with the information coming through from the quantum realm, the two of us will be able to share a lot more about the plants of New Earth. Many of them are plants that you will already know, but this ongoing series will be beginning on the 18th of March and really is a sort of season to season plant collector, medicine maker, shamanic person's guide to working with the plants in nature as they come out. So we'll be looking at the medicinal properties. For many of you out there are healers and probably want to know how to use nature's resources, nature's gift even. We'll be looking at spiritual and magical abilities, of course, because those lead us into the realms of their quantum attributes, which is really what this series is going to be getting deeper into. How do we work with the incredible plant intelligences at the quantum level? There is so much wisdom from our own human ancestors through working with the plants medicinally and magically, but now the plants are bringing a different type of technology from a higher realm of consciousness through actually our own layers of consciousness. And here we're being guided to look at the plants of this moment, the plants of spring. How to get out and forage them, how to collect, when, where will you find them, and which medicines are more appropriate for some plants. So in this initial seven plant series that starts on the 18th, every Wednesday, these will be live call presentations for roughly about an hour with Q&A afterwards, and some other hints and tips around the plants. So it forms a sort of ongoing almanac almost to the year in nature with the plants. But we kick off on the 18th with a double header of two primulas, Primrose and Cowslip. We go to the wonderful Borage the following week on the 25th. April the 1st is with Wild Garlic and Ramsons. And then we get into the rest of April with Cleavers and henbit actually, and red dead nettle, two members of the lamium family. Then we have a look at lungwort, a plant that is very much up already, and we round out the end of the month with nettle. And then of course a couple of days afterwards it is beltane. So each of these plant transmissions is just $25 to join, or you can get a little discount if you join up to the whole series. This forms part of a standalone series for anyone who wishes to know more about these plants, but actually also forms part of the wider Sacred Book of Nature. And if you've already joined the Sacred Book of Nature, then these are an additional piece of free content for you. So that's all I've got to say for now, and I'm going to hand it back to Davyd and Bella. Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. And hopefully you are like us and feeling the call of nature and wanting to get out and start planting seeds, maybe to grow food, maybe to grow medicine, or maybe just to make the place look beautiful. This is all very much part of that organic impulse that is coming, certainly, well, we would say it's coming from the fairy kingdom, but it's really coming from the goddess and from Mother Nature herself. Wherever you perceive it coming from, it's very, very strong. Certainly in our tribe, which is predominantly a plant tribe, many of us are feeling it. People are getting out and foraging, looking to nature for inspiration, looking to nature for healing, both physical, but mostly mental and spiritual. There's nothing really that beats sitting under a nice oak tree for 20 minutes and just letting it all.
Yeah, and it's perfect because this is the year to for that flowering, for the potential within to come out, for that self-germination and reconnection with nature.
Right, and the Wavespell finishes with a cosmic seed. So
Yeah.
our seeds are getting blessed with the cosmic principle. So we can even bring this into our planting of our seeds. May this seed be blessed with all of the positive forces of the universe.
Right. So let's move on with the Mayan. And so, as I was saying, we're entering the ninth moon, which is the moon of intention. It's called the solar moon, and it goes from March the 7th up to April the 3rd. And the energy, the totem that we have for this moon is the Jaguar, which is absolutely perfect because it brings the energy of leadership, wisdom, and to use the skills that we have. Many of us have been working on ourselves and realized that we've got the potential and the gifts for this moment. So the Jaguar also has that the motherly aspects. It's also graceful and nurturing, but it's a spirit. The Jaguar spirit maintains the human connection with the four elements and provides a very firm foundation, which is what we need now to be grounded so we can move through all of this process of what is going on in the planet with the situation in the Middle East.
Right, the Jaguar's magic is almost beyond words. Incredibly powerful totem animal.
And what is going to help us do during these 28 days is to balance the mundane and the spiritual and bring more discernment and premonition. Many of you are already very active in the dream space, getting lots of visions. I've been absolutely getting lots of visions, and many people in our tribe. And so this is the moment where our third eye is fully connected and matching that level of consciousness that is required during this process of ascension.
Right, and we've said before the journey to being cosmic human is a journey from being a more restricted 3D, 4D awareness in most people's cases to being multidimensional. And part of becoming multidimensional is seeing the non-physical, which actually is the predominant amount of the light spectrum that we receive. We see actually very little with our eyes, and of course, it's really just an optical illusion anyway.
And it was funny because I was talking to relatives, and even they were saying, like, I get to see now so much more that I couldn't see before in people, in deception, in corruption. The awakening is huge in just even normal people that have done no spiritual work. And so, with this energy of the Jaguar, we're also wanting to embrace change. The world is in the middle of the biggest change that is had for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So this is the moment to embrace that and go with courage and use that as strength that we have built over the period of time, at least the last few 5 years that we've done so much inner work, because it is necessary at this moment. Patience is another one, not to react too quickly, but just like the jaguar, imagine the jaguar in the jungle, just observing and knowing when to act and being very discerning. It's always there, even though you can't see it. That's the energy, to be very grounded and to just be very observant and learn to discern. Anything else?
I'm just going to add a practice here that a shamanic practice that came to me from a wonderful Irish shaman at the beautiful Dundee Park many moons ago. And the practice, I think, comes from the Castaneda lineage of works, which is stalking awareness. And the practice is to go out in the dark, around about dusk, and to stalk your own awareness. It's quite the process. At first, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but after many attempts of doing this, I realized it's very much like working with the Jaguar energy, working in the dark and letting your awareness become accustomed to the things that you initially cannot see. And
Yeah.
does it bring up fear, anxiety, or do you manage to find a place of equilibrium and calmness within yourself?
Because the importance with that practice is that you need to go into silence and alignment to see the patterns of chaos. And then you can move through them once you understand what are the patterns and what is the information trying to do, like to discombobulate you or
Well,
whatever.
it's a great exercise to differentiate the jerk reactions of the ego programmed matrix mind and to see how it contorts what are usually animal noises into something much more hideous and scary. But once you get used to it and you allow that awareness to come in, if you do this practice often enough, you will get to understand what noises a bird makes in the dark, what noises a badger or a fox makes. But your mind, if given half a chance, will extrapolate it into God knows what. And this is a really good exercise to see how the mind does that and to separate the part of your mind that does that and to go, hey, but I'm just sat in the dark of my own garden. There's nothing
Mhm.
here, right? So these are good exercises to really go inwards and assess where impulses, thoughts, and ideas actually come from.
And this is a great moment, especially for those of you that are doing the sacred book. You know that this is the moment we're at with the Black Panther, with the Jaguar energy, because it challenges you to face fears and confront both enemies and barriers head on, since the Jaguar is the ruler of the underworld. So, but it's also the energy of the wizard, the priest, the energy of the shaman. And so we have a couple of very important questions for all of these ninth moon. One is, how do I attain my purpose? This is where you, after the previous 8 moons, you're more clear about your intention and your purpose. And that's what you see during these 28 days. But also, how do I shine the line for others? This is the moment to do it. You're more confident about yourself, what you've been doing, you're more clear. And now, with the energy of what we were talking about with Mercury, is a good moment that you can start expressing what is it that you have to offer to others.
And if we include the intentional tone there, we can say that really we have a super, super powerful shamanic animal that can basically do anything.
Yeah.
It can see in the dark, it can use magic that is almost undescribable if you understand it at all. And we can use this with our intentions because after this moon is the planetary moon of the moon of planetary manifestation. And so
Yeah.
this is going to be huge in the cycle. If you think about where we are today with everything that is going on in our world, we have 28 days from today with this powerful Jaguar being that has so much history, story, and human connection with it. And of course, it also directly relates to the Stellar Nations pathway and the Panther Queen Tar, all of which is part of the return of the goddess. So we could say, in some ways, that this month is the final piece of the return of the goddess as embodied by the great Black Panther Queen.
So what I can read from all of those energies is that the planet is going to go through its initiation,
Yeah.
the masses. And the Jaguar is here to be the guardian of the unseen realms and a guide for night seers. So in the middle of all of this darkness that it's going to be not only disclosed, it has been disclosed, but if they, the elites and the powers, try to push us to points of fear, this is part of the initiation, and this is where we use everything we have been learning.
Right, that's a really good point because many people only believe that disclosure happens when BBC puts it on the 6 o'clock news. Well, to be honest, the disclosure has been going on in the astral planes for well over a year. And if you sit and meditate and ask questions, if you really want to see, you'll be surprised at how easily the information comes through. Now, at some point, you really don't want to look too much more. And that's when you go to the non-dual perch and start asking, well, how does this get balanced back out? Because it has to. This is duality. And that is part of the exit from this old matrix paradigm. It's part of the ascension ladder, and it's essential. If you are still very much in an unbalance, it's their fault, he did this and she did that and somebody else did something else, then that's not non-dual awareness. That's still very much in polarized dual awareness. It's not, we're not saying this because we think it's a really cool thing. We're saying this because we've been through the experience and had to get to this place to be able to look at everything that is in the darkness with the eyes of the Jaguar, which just sees it from a non-dualistic point of view. It's all just part of the great performance that we all signed up to be actors in. And now this is the great finale. The curtain's about to come down and we're going to see the wizard, maybe a Jaguar behind the curtain, and maybe one or two other things that we didn't expect as well.
Yeah, so just the final part about this moon and the totem is let's go into our shamanics. If you have any shamanic skills, this is the moment to hold space for the collective because it's going to be very much needed. Maybe you have to hold space for your neighborhood, for your family, even at a global level through your meditations. If you go into the astrals, go into the space of very shamanic Jaguar energy.
And also, we've said this many times before, but whenever you do some really good inner work by yourself, maybe a ceremony for yourself or a meditation, and you move through something, always remember to offer the positive aspects of your release from that to the collective grid, because there may be more than one person out there who might be going through the same thing and could perhaps do with that inspiration that allowed you to release. Because really, when you were releasing and healing something, the vast majority of it is looking at it and seeing it for what it truly is. And then once you've seen it, it no longer holds that power over you, which is why even just a brief look at everything that is going on in the world is kind of essential. Otherwise, you're avoiding it. That's an aversion. And as we've said many times before, as Buddhism lays out, all of our suffering is caused either by an aversion or an attachment, hence why non-duality is the middle path.
And let's remember that this storm wave spell we're wrapping up is telling us that change has to happen.
Yeah.
Is the catalyzer for change. And on the other side of this is a whole different world. And we just need to learn to navigate as good shamans to the other side of this. And so let's go into the part about the Tzolkin or the 260-day cycle, where we look at the castles and the Wavespell. We are wrapping up the second castle, the White Castle, with this Wavespell that we're going to start working with, and is a castle of refinement. So we initiated a big process, and now we're in the refinement process, where many things are seen, lots of information, and we need to discern and refine what is going on. With the energy of the yellow human, which is going from March the 10th up to March the 23rd. It's kin number 92 up to kin 104 with 2 galactic activation portals, one on the Skywalker on day 2 and the other one on day 5 with the warrior. So are things intensifying? Yes, absolutely, until we get through the process of the 16th of March with 3i Atlas is a very important marker point, and then the equinox is, I would say, the final point of this.
Yeah, there's quite a bit in this Wasteful, and even the akin number 93, the gap day with the red lunar skywalker, that's a challenge day, and that could challenge people's ability to be more like a skywalker with multidimensional awareness. It speaks to me of more revealing of the non-physical realms. all of which is essential. It's part of becoming multidimensional cosmic humans.
And then day three is again the Jaguar or the energy of the wizard at service for the
That's right.
collective.
Yeah,
So
that loop of Skywalker, Wizard, Eagle, and Warrior that often comes at pivotal moments where we need those energies. Yeah.
right. So, what other qualities does the yellow human have? Well, all to do with connecting with the wisdom from the ancestors, the moment of harvest of all of these cosmic humans stepping up for this moment is also about free will. All of our experience in this planet has been about free will, and this is that moment where you decide is a choice point with your free will. Do you want to align with divine will, or what side are you going to be, or are you going to even be polarized? Because this energy is also about the collective human consciousness, and this is the point where we need to be vibrating. There is going to be really busy in the collective consciousness, but we are the anchors to bring some stability during this moment. The yellow human also has wisdom and insight, compassion. We do need a lot of compassion, especially with the energy of Pisces for the whole planet, for all sides, all countries, because what they keep on trying to make us do is divide and go into polarities and dualities. And we need to come back to a point of compassion and knowing that we're all interconnected as much as they want to divide us. So the yellow human as well is about that positive influence that you can have on others. So maybe some kind words or some information that you could share to other people because it is going to be needed to bring some calm and compassion to others. It's also the moment for that electromagnetic tuning. We also feel that with the sun and the energies, the cosmic energies coming, there will be a heightened energy, whether it is a solar flare or an EMF or something that comes from the earth. We don't know exactly, but that moment is very palpable now as the whole Middle East stuff is happening. Also, the earth reacts to all of this and through the collective consciousness, people. So the yellow human, more than anything, is that representation of the vessel that we are, the chalice, the grail. We are the grail. And all of the work of removing the shadows, of detoxing, of working on our beliefs, on our fears, is all about having an empty vessel that is not polarized, that is clear, and where our heart is able to connect so that we can hold the energy of this moment of ascension. Yeah. So and there is some shadow. We know what the shadow is at the moment in the big picture, but also here comes more of the individual shadow that we'll all need to review, which is lack of abundance. All of those fears about lack of abundance, seeing the world, the economy of the planet collapse is going to bring a lot of those fears to the surface. And people that are disconnected from their manifestation powers are also going to be more worried. So we need to step into how are we going to work collectively. The other shadow is having too much of a busy mind and looking for too much information rather than go in and knowing that the answers are inside of us. And all we need to do is be like the Jaguar, go inside, be patient, discern, and then just take action when you feel is the correct moment.
Yeah. So, if you're finding it difficult to communicate with other things that people have been saying, you can radiate your light in a different way. Maybe you like to get into the kitchen and put all of your love into the food. Maybe you're going to cook some food for people in your house that makes them smile. Maybe you like to get out in the garden and make your garden look beautiful. Maybe you like to paint pictures and make your house look beautiful. These are all ways that we can have a positive effect on the energy around us, even people around us, without necessarily having to get into a direct conversation or tete-a-tete with people. So, and of course, when it comes to abundance, nature is literally the abundance provider. Actually, I don't know of anything else that provides real abundance apart from nature because it's here. It doesn't involve a printing machine or fake paper or anything like that. And so if you, in fact, this is a lot of what the series I'm going to be putting out is about, is learning how to get out and forage, make medicines, how to transplant things into your garden that you can grow, and generally just getting super resourced and allowing nature to provide you with abundance. Because really, the only abundance you need is heat, warmth, and food. Company is also nice, but as long as you have a warm house and dry clothes and good food, then you're pretty much set to go, right?
Hmm.
So that's worth remembering. And also, yeah, being too distracted. We've said it many times, but still we can feel it in the ethers, in people's fields, is that you can't really hope to become ascended when your day is filled 99% of the time with screens and other things. You need to be able to go inside and see what is happening to you on the inner planes, which is really where all of the stargates, our technology to connect with the universe is. But if you're not going internally and getting the news from there, chances are you're getting the news from somewhere else, which is at best going to be secondhand and at worst is going to be complete falsehood. So yeah, just reminding again that nature time, meditation time every day really makes a huge difference to feeling calm, centered, grounded, connected.
And so, yeah, this wave spell is requiring us to empty our minds. If you have a meditation practice, or as you were saying, maybe gardening or something, it is very important, more important than you think, because the more that you're spending time with yourself, calming down, reconnecting with nature, the more that we can anchor that energy as the world is going into chaos. And here, what I see that is also very important is that on day 10, which is the day of manifestation with the red dragon, that is also the day of the equinox. So many things are happening with the equinox. It's like a moment of a new beginning, a new rebalancing, energy that starts something completely new that we've been seeing since October, since the convergence. But the waves of ascension and the level of energy is so accelerated, and it just keeps on ramping up and up and up.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the astrology in a minute, but of course, Mercury goes direct that day as well.
Right. So with the yellow magnetic human, it's also the energy of like the road, the sacred path and dew, the symbolism of the dew from heaven, which it's a very biblical moment as well, as we can see with everything happening in the Middle East and the story with Israel and everything that is connected to all of that is bringing us some of this energy from the past, but it's about reconnecting with the new Christ consciousness energy, the way we want to live moving forward with a higher consciousness. And this wisdom that comes through this energy of the yellow magnetic human defines the way humans walk according to their knowledge of truth. So that's why being discerning in discerning in this moment is so key, because it's what is going to show us how we all move forward as humanity.
You know what your words you've written here remind me of, Bella? When you say the dew from heaven, it immediately makes me think of the plant Alchemy mollis, lady's mantle, because it has that dew from heaven, and that plant is considered to be the embodiment of one of the most high-powered feminine alchemist energies in the universe. So,
Mhm.
and will be one of the plants featured in the ongoing series for the rest of this year. So definitely watch out for that. It is out in certain parts of the Northern Hemisphere already, and it has that wonderful dew in the morning
Mhm.
which you can drink like a nectar.
And there are so many people that have done spiritual work and lots of different specialities and different courses and different training and different shamanic things. But this is the moment where you make your decision through free will to walk the sacred path, which represents the capacity of walking wisely according to this truth. And it is what defines conscious from unconscious or good from evil, so that you're not polarized, but you know your sacred path, which is for the highest good of all.
Right, and wisdom really is also direct experience. Wisdom is different from knowledge in that regard. You can gain knowledge from reading other material, other people's books, but
Mhm.
wisdom is something that you've learnt as a truth and gnosis for yourself.
Right. So the same as with every wave spell, there are a series of questions, and you can follow the day by day, the energy of the glyph and the energy of the tone, and define your purpose for this very, very important wave spell, which is the one that is moving most of humanity to the other side of the veil. We did this wave spell with our group, the last Tzolkin, and it was the moment where we took lots of people to the beach of New Earth. All of those that participated in that thank you. And this is a replay where we are all now holding space for the newcomers.
In fact, if you've made it this far into the video, well done, everybody. You'll get a little emoticon with a palm tree on it. But please, if you were in the eye of the storm or expedition you were and you're watching this, please let us know in the comments, because the energy of that was super, super strong. And we sort of effectively constellationally role played through those two immersions, although in the higher dimensions of the non-physical realms, everything that's actually happening now, it's kind of weird to be living in something that many of us have already experienced. So we'd love to hear from you. If you have any reflections, please do put them in the comments. And of course, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Well, and so I just wanted to add the first and last of the affirmations. The first affirmation for this wave spell, which is the yellow magnetic human with kin 92, is I unify in order to influence, attracting wisdom. I seal the process of free will with the magnetic tone of purpose, and I'm guided by my own power. Double, meaning double the energy for this. So it's important to know at least what is the energy that is going to play out for the 13 days. And then on the last day, we arrive with the yellow cosmic seed with kin 104, with I endure in order to target, transcending awareness. I seal the input of flowering with the cosmic tone of presence. I'm guided by the power of elegance. So it's where we get to the point of elevating our energy as cosmic seeds and activating our cosmic human energy. So I'd say there will be on very different energy for the planet on the other side of this.
Right, and actually, we will upload all of the daily glyph readings you did to our YouTube members, as we've done with other wave spells. That they will be from that expedition UF, but Bella gives a slightly different overview to the daily mind glyph readings, so we will activate those for those of you in our YouTube Starseed membership program, which of course you can join up for just $10 a month and get quite a few bonuses and freebies, and of course also a pretty juicy 20% discount
On all of the courses,
on
yeah.
all of the courses. But actually, superseding that at the moment, we have a special offer, our Triskel triple powered 33% discount on all QPW courses up until the Equinox, to really encourage any of you out there who are wanting to step into the world of geomancy or shamanism, working with your inner elemental energies, working with the Mayan calendar, working with stellar nations. All of those pathways we have on QPW will be part of that super special Triskel 33% sale. So do check that out as well.
Good. So now let's go into the astrology. And in the 13th sign astrology, we are in Pisces. We start the Pisces from March the 10th up to April the 20th. And with this energy of Pisces, we are talking about an energy that is more mature and compassionate, aware of the whole breadth of the universe. What is happening in the planet affects the whole solar system and the whole universe. That's why this is our final test as a collective. What is humanity going to choose? Or is it going to be destruction and more war? Or are we going to be able to transcend that and then move to the higher octave? Because the S energy of Pisces is about sensitivity, bringing more empathy, adaptability to the changes that we're going to face, we're already facing, being more sympathetic, bringing more honesty, and activating fully our intuition. We've been practicing this for quite a few years, so now it has to be fully online. It's also the energy of healing and service, and that many people are going to need. It's also a moment to reconnect with music and arts and poetry and all of the spiritual mysteries. And that is part of what we've been doing with our courses and our immersions, is bringing all of these spiritual mysteries, which are needed as training for us to live in the new earth that we're starting already. And we can see that the whole symbolism of the two fishes, which are linked by a cord on the tail, it's very ancient. And the sea we know symbolizes the unconscious, and the two fish, it has different mythology. One is the Greek, where is the connection of Aphrodite and Eros, tied together by those cords on the tail, so that they could always find each other. So that is a beautiful symbolism connected to it as well. But many different cultures have different symbolism for it. But at this moment, what I feel this energy of Pisces is going to bring us all together to remember that we're all interconnected. What happens in the Middle East affects the whole world. Just think economically, for example, 40% of the oil that comes out of the Middle East goes to China. And if they don't get that, a lot part of the whole planet is going to come into stop like standby.
Mhm.
Japan also gets most of the oil from there, India, Pakistan, and then the Middle East needs the food that comes from other places through the Stretch of Hormuz as well, which is blocked at the moment. And then it is just like a dominoes effect. And then the stock markets will be affected, the petrodollar, everything, because we are so interconnected. And so this is a very important point for the world to step up and come up with new solutions. And that includes all of us. Even if you have ideas that you can put into the grid, into the collective mind, those are the kind of things that if they are coherent and clear and from a place of not ego, but for the highest good of all, this is the kind of energy we need to start infusing into the noosphere, which we've talked about a lot as well.
So you'll notice here that we're using the 13 signs. So there also, if you're looking at the dates and scratching your head a little bit, this is a big sign in the 13 sign. You'll see on the chart again in a minute. It has, I think, 40 degrees, or maybe 42 even,
30 something. It's
something like that.
a really big
Yeah.
constellation in the sky, which is part of what the 13 signs does.
And interestingly, this new moon in Pisces is in Pisces in both systems, both the 13 sign sidereal, where it's more at the beginning, and also in the tropical, where it's pretty much in the anaretic, I think. So it's a kind of almost a realignment point, but also a fusion point, a coalition point, we could even say. And what better sign than Pisces, which is considered the end of the
Yeah.
zodiac,
Mhm.
and
At the end
yeah,
of an era.
it's the
So
end
we
of an
can go
era.
into the time of Aquarius.
At the end of an epoch, the end of an illusion. For really, I feel that we're returning to the true reality that we were, well, I don't know, tricked into or somehow beamed into, however we look at this reality, whether we think of it as a sim or not. Somehow we're returning to the blueprints of what seem like the past of Atlantis and Lemuria, but in actual fact, as we move into them, they're going to seem like we're moving into some sort of sci-fi world in comparison to the reality we have been living in.
Yeah.
But really, we're just stepping into the past at a higher octave, which we sort of mentioned earlier. We will be returning to spaces that we naturally have inhabited before, but from the perspective of an embodied cosmic human. That's pretty wild when you think about it.
Mhm.
And I would definitely meditate on that a bit more, as I have done a lot, because when you really feel into it, it feels like the end. Many of us in our tribe have been saying, I feel like everything has ended, but I don't feel bad about it. I actually feel kind of okay. And you might go through a bit of a moment where you hit non-duality, which can be like entering the void and a little strange. You don't feel amazing, but you also don't feel terrible. You just actually might feel nothing for a little while. That's okay. It's part of the process of leveling out and then leveling up. So I think that this is a really, really potent moment as we go through Pisces with Neptune and Saturn and the Cazimis. And of course, Yeshua was there conjuncting with Neptune and Saturn in this last wave spell. So there's been a lot of action, right?
But I think that still the biggest teaching that this time of Pisces is going to show us before we move forward is that we're connected and our connection to everything, and that it's time to let go of all of those attachments to the material reality because the artificial matrix is collapsing, and to get to see our union with the universe and to see everything as one. It's a moment of liberation, of regrowth and resurrection. Remember that we have the equinox here. It's the spring equinox for the northern hemisphere. But then in the southern hemisphere is the autumn equinox. So this is a very important moment for the whole planet. And besides, we have Venus there in Pisces, which is exalted. And when Venus is there, it loves totally and unconditionally. It tells me that the goddess energy is fully supporting this process of the end and the beginning. I'm bringing more imagination, more art, and the focus is on nature. When Venus is in Pisces, it's also about everything, reconnecting as everybody as one with nature.
So I just had a thought, when we think about the caduceus, it's two serpents tied at the tail, and here in Pisces, it's two fish. And I think maybe they're offering us the higher octave, maybe,
Hmm.
of that conjoining of
Of a balancing.
yeah, of the balancing of the male and female serpent, the snake energy. Of course, if you've done stellar nations, you'll understand the bigger context of that. But that's also part of the sixth tone, the rhythmic tone of balancing. So we can understand all of these different layers that we put in with the quantum compass each time.
Enough, part of the history of these two fish and how it became that constellation, it's from ancient Mesopotamia, which with the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers being the lifeblood of that civilization in Mesopotamia. So they saw it as two fish and the connection to it.
And of course, one of the great beings of the serpent races of the Anunnaki was Enki, and he appears as a fish-tailed being
Yeah.
emerging from the sea. And really and truly, what was he? He was a serpent being, a magician. So, the correlations just keep going on.
He's also connected to
Of
Neptune.
course, he is Neptune, really, in many ways.
Here
Yeah.
we have the trident, but also Zeus, because
Mhm.
Jupiter was before, it used to be the ruler of Pisces as well. So there is a deep connection to these two big energies of Neptune and Jupiter with Pisces.
And of course, many people have commented in recent times that Jesus is actually Jesus.
Hmm.
So is it Jesus, Yeshua, and Enki? Maybe two old brothers, maybe even the same being at a
Maybe
very, very
different
high level of
avatars.
consciousness. In
Maybe just different avatars for
yes,
one single
I
energy,
think
which
so.
is about fertility and this moment of resurrection.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just show here very briefly Stellarium. This is March 11, the first day of the wave spell of the yellow human. The red line is the ecliptic, so you can see how the sun and the planets move along there. And so you see here the two phases and how the sun is just enter here as we go into March 11. Saturn and Neptune are there too, together with Venus. So there is a lot of energy, a big stellium going on in Pisces, which I wanted people to
Yeah.
see. Yeah. Mars is still here on the right in Aquarius, though. And then we have a very important day, which is March 16th, with 3i Atlas getting really close to Jupiter. The proximity is 0.358 astronomical units. That's really, really close in the big scheme of the solar system. And there are lots of different information going on and speculation, which suggests that it might interact with Jupiter's moon Eupheme. It is mostly expected to pass just inside the boundary of Jupiter's gravitational influence. But we know that Jupiter has many other moons. So we don't know what the effect is going to be. There are many different authors and channelers and mediums that talk about that there is life in Ganymede and in Europa and Io. So we don't know exactly how it's going to affect us, but it feels like the final move that 3i Atlas has for the planet, for the solar system in the moment of resetting.
Couple of things around this. Some people have been commenting recently that Jupiter is considered to be the place where the gods hang out. In fact, beings like Enki and Enlil, for example, and many other gods. So who knows? There could be something in that. There could be something to do with what is going on now. Fallen gods, maybe.
Even
Many things.
even in the ancient Mayan cosmology and mythology, it is said that Quetzalcoatl
Mm,
returned to
that's right.
Jupiter
Yeah.
at the end. So is it true? We don't know. Maybe it is the place where the gods and goddesses or beings, other beings that have helped seed humanity and this planet, maybe that's where they live and they come and go. And this is a big moment of, okay, end of one experiment, and let's get ready for the other part of the experiment.
Right. And one for the film buffs out there. If you have seen the sci-fi movie, The Europa Report, please do put it in the comments. I've seen it. It's one of my favorite sci-fi movies. Not a big budget one, but a very clever one. So if you've seen it, let me know.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention here before you go deeper into the astrology is the moment of the equinox on the 20th of March, which is a point of balance of light and dark, is when the sun is positioned directly above the Earth's equator. And, it's a seasonal change. The March equinox marks the beginning of spring in the northern hemisphere and autumn in the southern hemisphere. Well, September reverses it, but many sites, like we can see here on the left, we have the one in Chichen Itza, El Castillo, and you see the serpent, the energy of the sun reflected, going down into the earth. That is the symbolism. Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan coming through the energy of the sun and going into the earth. And then when we finish the other equinox, is the reversal of that. It goes out of the earth again. So it's this symbolism is also about the triumph of light over darkness, which is a parallel to the resurrection of Christ and the promise of a new life. And many sites, if you get to visit any site, do let us know. It's when you get to see these amazing and beautiful displays of the sun being in the center. Many churches, many cathedrals, as I said in the mini series about the sun, are aligned to this moment. And it's a moment where we can all access that higher octave of the energy of balance.
And it's happening on a day of the red planetary dragon, so there's also a serpent connection there
Exactly.
too. And it's even a bit of a Skywalker day, right? Bringing heaven to earth,
That's
bringing it
good.
down from the higher realms of non-physicality into manifest awareness so that
Mhm.
it can be seeded
Mm.
in this resonant seed year.
And
Beautiful.
so this is a stellarium for the day of the equinox, March the 20th. You can see the sun is in Pisces, not like in Western astrology, where they say that it's at 0 degrees of Aries. It's not. Aries is quite a long way to go. That is why the Western system is not really aligned with the true sky and the true constellations. But we can see here Venus is in Pisces, Saturn is in Pisces, Neptune is in Pisces, is this little dot I drew there, the blue one, and the sun. So it's a big conjunction of energy. I think they are marking like, okay, it's all systems go. The old systems are collapsing. We know that Neptune and Saturn had a big conjunction and marked the beginning of this whole new process that brings a lot of change and chaos, but is necessary to get to the other side. Ready?
Right, yeah. So just the day before this happens, in fact, on just a few days rather, on the 10th of March, we have Jupiter going direct. So that's going to happen just 6 days before Free Eye Atlas flies by, which to me does feel very significant
Right.
because Jupiter is the planet of expansion. And I'd like to believe, or I do believe, that we're going to move into quite an expansive period now for humans, or perhaps we're going to be cosmic humans, which in itself is an expansion of being human because humans have been somewhat restricted by the energy patterns and the matrix system here, keeping us trapped really in certain frequencies. And, you know, many of us over the last like 10 years and maybe some of you going back 20, 30 years found ways to escape, perhaps working with plants, doing breath work. There are ways around, but the truth is the majority of the masses are still or have been until very recently stuck in that space. So I
Yeah.
think that all of these really tight control mechanisms that have been there are basically gone. But there is some level of PTSD in humans that hasn't quite received that information yet.
Yeah.
And as Jupiter goes forwards and Free Eye Atlas delivers, I think the final one of its payloads, it's delivered quite a few already. I think that we will start to really see the expansion into change just a few days there ahead of the solstice of the equinox, sorry.
Yeah.
So let's have a quick look at the astro transits for this Wavespell. Here is the beginning of the Wavespell on the left with the 13 sign sidereal map there. And I've also marked out all of the various points over this Wavespell. So if we just look through them quickly, day 3, magical 13, Mars conjuncts the North Node in Aquarius. Now, but the North Node is generally our collective future. Mars was the god of war, but I now think is the god of action. Once these war narratives have been let go of, then Mars won't need to be doing that anymore. He can be the god of action. And so he can be bringing sort of action to our collective future through that Aquarian filter, which is more about innovation and the future and many other things.
I agree.
On the same day, Venus in Pisces trines Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. So Black Moon Lilith is quite involved in this way, spell, as indeed is Mercury quite a bit. But that feels harmonious. That perhaps is some of the squaring off of some of what could be brought up this evening with Black Moon Lilith squaring the nodes. And so Venus in Pisces bringing that energy, maybe smoothing out the energies and telling Lilith it's all okay, it's all let go of now. The past is done, and we can look forward to a much more beautiful future together with all of the goddess returned, maybe.
All of the what's happened with the Epstein files is very Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, which is
Yeah.
what many people are getting to see and getting shocked about it. Many of us here have known about these things for a long time. But that trend with Venus is like, okay, it's a moment for compassion because many of these perpetrators have also been victims and they have just continued this process and they have enslaved people, they have done terrible things that have been done to them as well. So this is a moment of all of us looking into the past and looking at the whole planet. We need to come to a place of compassion for everyone, because I'm sure that many of those beings weren't willingly doing those things either with
It's
the Black Moon and
yeah, it's
stuff.
a very difficult point to explain, and many people might even get triggered by what me and Bella have already said in this show. But we do genuinely believe that this is a moment for unconditional love and compassion for all beings, no matter who they are. And if you meditate regularly into non-duality, you will see why that needs to be the case. Where one goes, we all go, whether you perceive them to be a villain or a hero. That's very subjective based on your own
And
impression.
also, maybe in this incarnation, you didn't choose to do this, but
Yes.
many of us have had many incarnations as many different characters. Maybe at some point, some of you were perpetrators and sometimes you were victims. And so we had to do all of the cycle of karma to come to this point, and everybody said, okay, enough. I think we've learned enough, and we want to go into the higher octave with Pisces, which has that big stellium with Venus there, with Saturn, with Neptune, with the Sun, with Chiron and Ceres. Everybody saying, let's start something new now.
So, if that kind of idea does trigger you, I would definitely suggest that's the place to meditate the most, because getting triggered by the divisive narratives really just creates more suffering for yourself internally and with the people around you. You might hold your own opinions, we all do, in some way or other. We all probably still have some bias. Our heart leans this way or this way, depending on the information we have. But as I've realized, and it's been proved useful over the years, it's just to keep chipping away at that. And it's like, well, my heart feels like this, but something in my awareness tells me that's not the full story either. And it's always a good idea to work with that intuition that you don't have the full story, because there could be a critical piece of information that you don't know that completely changes how you view something, including your own life, in fact.
And nobody has the full picture. Nobody has the whole information. We all have little bits and pieces that are part of the big puzzle.
Yeah.
And the final moment that I feel this is bringing us all to is, can we be in our hearts and then be able to forgive and be in full love and create from that space? And that's going to be the big challenge, I think, because what I've understood is that the heart is where all of the cords are tied to, and that those are the ones we need to release at this moment.
Right. So to kind of bring that to a bit of a conclusion, Mars steps in on day 4 and squares Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. So I think that if there is still some underlying fire or resentment or anything, that is going to come up that day.
Yeah.
Possibly to do with justice, maybe people not feeling that justice is being done. Me personally, I think that in order to move into a new Earth of a higher frequency, we cannot be bringing any of the disgruntlements from the past. This person needs to be, and this person should be, and this. And if you think about it, all it's doing is like having a ball on a chain behind you that you're dragging forwards to prove a point that somebody needs to be made to pay for something. I know that it's easy to get into righteous judgment about these things, but if you really sit and meditate on it, you'll realize all you're doing is just extending the suffering by bringing it with you. So definitely want to meditate on there.
Yeah.
As we go into day 5, Mars still in the mix is now conjunct Mercury. So hopefully Mercury and Mars are getting the message, and so are we all. If not, that could be also quite a challenging day. And then just to round out the Black Moon Lilith experience, Mercury in Aquarius squares Black Moon Lilith. So I think that by the 16th of March, when 3i flies by Jupiter, we should have a pretty good idea of pretty much everything we need to know.
I'd say that Mars and Mercury are also about explosive news that
Yes.
will come out. through technology, whether
Yes.
through EBS or through just some shocking stories that go on the internet, all
Yeah.
of those things.
And looking at the chart here on the left before we look at the rest of the transits, if you look at what Bella was saying, we're essentially in a trigger stellium. Okay, this is 7 degrees, but some people would include that as a conjunction between Vesta and Mars. Mars in a 2 degree orb there to the North Node, which is in a 4 degree orb to Mercury, which is in a 2 degree orb to Pallas Athena.
Mhm.
That's a lot of energy right there. And even though 3 degrees of Aquarius where Vesta is and 18 are not in any way a conjunction, by having all of those trigger points, that's why it's called a trigger stellium. One triggers the other. So it's actually like one huge stellium with all of those energies affecting each other in some way. So, but they're actually, if you look at them, they're energies of change. They're energies of rebellions, of coming to an end of like a situation that's been hard fought over. Pallas, the righteous warrior in some ways. Mars also very much with a warrior energy and going to the North Node. But we don't want to be warriors in the future. We want to let go of war. It hasn't served us very well. It denies us abundance, denies us expansion in some ways. It's quite restrictive. It reduces culture. It eliminates culture, even types of being. So I think that we can look at this whole stellium with some intrigue and definitely inviting people out there to look deeper again and also to comment on that. But as we move on, one of the major points of this wave spell is on day 8, the day of integration of the storm, interestingly, with a new moon in Pisces. And of course, as we said, it's a new moon in Pisces in both systems, both tropical and 13 sign. But also on that day, Venus in Pisces will be squaring Jupiter in Gemini. And the Sun, which is actually in Pisces, I forgot to put that on the slide, is in sextile to Uranus in Taurus, which is a kind of a nice, harmonious trine, and then followed a couple of days later, of course, by the March spring equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere, autumn equinox for you folks down under. And Mercury goes direct that day, the red planetary dragon day. So that does feel like a big day. We can read the dragon energy as and the planetary tone perhaps as something to do with the Gaia grid getting fixed.
Yep.
That's definitely been work that many of us have been doing for a while now, but is really actually, I would suggest, pretty much done. And so we have a new natural or the original Gaia grid in place, but we're still looking at the old inverted matrix grid, which drives all of the narratives on the screen, is still being in place. So from our vantage point, this seems to be where we're at. The new earthly Gaia grid is in place, but we haven't actually quite removed the obstruction visually to why it still seems to be in place. That I think is the major stumbling block that is really preventing humanity from moving forwards. It's an optical illusion, and some nefarious forces are using that optical illusion to their own benefit. Once we realize it's an illusion, it has no power anymore. So I think this is all before the end of this month. That's my gut feeling.
Right.
And to round out the way spell, well, it finishes on day 12 really with this pretty, I think, interesting Neptune Cazimi that takes place around about midday, I think, UTC. And that's after Mars has trined Jupiter, which also feels positive. So lots going on there, Bella, right? We'll just jump to the charts of the key days. But anything that you wish to allude to from what you've picked up there?
Quite a few, but I'll just
Yeah,
mention, let's say on the 21st,
yeah.
with day 11, the trine between Jupiter and Mars, I think is quite important. It could be the new news, which are going to be more expansive about the new way that the
Yeah.
planet is going to be recreating what new earth is about, and it depends on how where your frequency and your consciousness is, you're going to be making choices. What is the choice that you're going to make? Is it going to be more artificial or is it going to be more organic? And I think that is part of what wants to come through, maybe through different new systems in technology that will be offered to humanity. We'll see. But I see like another choice point after all of the energetic comes to the crescendo, then it's choice point.
Okay. Did you want to comment on anything else?
No, okay.
So I'm just going to throw this one in. If you haven't watched the Back to the Future trilogy movies recently, I would definitely recommend if you have an afternoon to get them out and watch them because one of our tribe made an interesting point recently and surmised that we are going to be writing let me get the words exactly. We are going to be writing the past from the future,
Mm-hmm.
which Sounds weird, but only if you believe in linear time.
Mhm.
If you have an idea of how that can happen, then actually that is what we are going to return to. What actually linear time was our past with the Atlantean technology, the Lemurian technology, some of which we're actually already seeing in play. But we have to cross the Rubicon or the event horizon of the final downfall of Atlantis. So we'll see where Atlantis is in a minute because it actually got Cazimi, if you remember, in the
Mm.
last wave spell. So the energy of Atlantis is very, very strong. And we will see Atlantean technology to our current mindset in this moment, perhaps maybe not in a few weeks' time, as something new in sci-fi. And yet it's not really. It's just our own technology of the past now being revealed to us by something or somebody seemingly for the first time in our life, but it's not really. If we go into our memory banks and meditate back into Atlantis, we'll understand that we already knew this.
Mm.
So, are we in the past going to the future or the future going to the past? Well, in spiral time, it's neither. A bit of a headbender. Definitely meditate on it because it is actually the construction that we're now in, right?
Yep.
So, anyway, if we haven't bent your head enough, let's get into some more possibilities. These are the charts for new moon. We include the 13 sign sidereal, which is the one we're working with. But as always, we do also put the tropical, mainly because we can see some of the interesting asteroids that we like to look at. So, what have we got coming up here? Well, we can see that Quercus, the oak, will be in a direct conjunction with Chiron on that new moon. So when we understand the wisdom of the oak tree, anyone who did the wisdom of the three trees or has been working in our tribe for a while will know that the oak tree, along with the ash and the yew, holds the blueprint of the mystical column and to some extent Yggdrasil, which is really the map of ourselves internally at a quantum level, but also Mother Earth with the toroidal fields. So it seems to me that the wisdom of the oak here is meeting the centaur Chiron, perhaps to give some final wisdom on how we can heal our relationship with nature, but also with nodal points in nature, because the oaks often hold nodal points, as well, we have one here that does that. So I think that that's really important because, as we've talked a lot about in our tribe, we are also mobile nodal points, and we can be a nodal point wherever we go, bringing in different types of energies into one space. So watch out soon for a new show coming from QPW called The Nodal Point, bringing nature and humans together. So, anything here on the chart that you want to dip into for the new moon? We can see that Neptune and Saturn are still in that tight conjunction of just 2 degrees. Venus is now moving into a conjunction with Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, very much linked to the Artemisia plants.
Mhm.
We also have Quetzalcoatl coming into a conjunction with Juno, whilst also being, oh no, that's actually already past their Phallus, is in, what is that, no, in Pisces, no, Taurus, sorry. No, hold on, it's in, excuse me, it's in Capricorn, bloody hell, I got there in the end, sorry, guys, mental block there for a second. Went through every sign, somehow eventually got the right one. And of course, Jupiter is also still in a 2 degree out of sign conjunction with Sedna. So quite a few influences. Anything catching your eye there, Bella, in this moment? We can see Atlantis there, sitting between the energies of the new moon here in Pisces and Mars. It's in a little bit of a wide
I think
conjunction.
it's a very big stellium and conjunction. We have the moon, the sun, Neptune, Saturn, and if you want to include Atlantis there as well, it's a little bit wide. But just those four, the moon, the new moon, Saturn, and Neptune, tell me that the whole reset that they did, Saturn and Neptune, for the new time. They're closing. I feel their conjunction closed the period of what happened with the Piscean age.
Yeah.
And so to leave behind all religious beliefs that were for control and manipulation, and then to come into a whole new way of a spirituality, give a new form to our spirituality, moving forward into new earth.
Right, true that. And we can see also actually on the new moon, we hadn't really focused this, just as and just before it goes direct, I think, Mercury is in a conjunction with the North Node, having Mars just having passed over it as
Yeah,
well.
they're conjunct for the new
Yeah,
moon. Mhm.
that's right. Yeah. It's still in retro at that point. So I guess it's probably going to conjunct the North Node a couple of times, right? So that also seems interesting because Mercury, the sort of messenger god, is always, as you've probably seen in many of our shows and also in the cosmic history codes, is the figure that we look to who goes around picking up bits of information from the other gods, the planets, and then delivering them into some sort of format that we can receive, that we can make sense of.
And being still retro, it's telling us let's look for solutions to any lingering problems, whether in your private life, in your relationships, but also to the bigger planetary level with everything that is going on in the Middle East. It's like we need to focus on solutions rather than more war and more of the same things that they keep on doing.
Right, and just thinking about Quetzalcoatl coming into a conjunction with Juno, the sort of the goddess of commitment, it feels like Quetzal wants to enter into that space of partnership, maybe of relationships, but with a new higher imperative, having gone through a transformational process to become the feathered serpent and integrating perhaps different strands of our own DNA. We can see the birds, we can see the serpents, and some other
The
aspect, the
dragon.
dragon, yes, the eagles, and even beings like the Garuda, are all somehow embodied within the higher aspect of Quetzal. And here Quetzal's stepping into a place, perhaps into a new commitment
Right.
for Quetzal himself. And then sometimes people even have linked the fishtail being Enki with Quetzalcoatl. So, many people will argue the toss about all of these things, but generally, when we look at the energy patterns of these beings, we can see that they're at least very, very similar. So they could just be different avatar incarnations.
Yeah, even Maya, she mentions that Quetzalcoatl is one of the incarnations of Thoth.
Yes,
So if we
absolutely.
think that there is that being that was in charge of bringing civilization and maybe genetics to our planet, writing, cosmology, astronomy, lots of knowledge for humans, but came as different avatars every time, bringing different bits of information. We could even think that maybe Jesus was one of the latest, bringing the final part, which is about the connection to our heart, to unconditional love, so that we could ascend. Instead, there was a whole controversy with everything they did with churches and Catholicism and everything else that we know. But at the core of it, it was another training on how to ascend. Like, how can you get to your heart? Can you deal with all of your demons, which is your shadows? Can you do the work? Can you be compassionate? Can you do healing on others and yourself?
In fact, when you really understand the energies of the male serpent lineage of magicians, the Melchizedek lineage, you can actually see that the likes of Yeshua and Toph and Enki and Quetzal, these beings all carry the same energy signatures. They might not all be the same being, but they could actually be the same oversoul, just in different incarnations. So it's good to be flexible with these things and understand the energy of, say, Yeshua as opposed to Jesus, because it's not
Yeah.
quite the same frequency, because it's a different iteration, as opposed to Enki, who may be the same being as Toph. Some people say definitely not. For me, I can definitely see the similarities in the frequencies because I've communicated with both of them. So again, this comes down to direct experience, your own wisdom. Go with your own experiences. And if you don't have any, then just keep an open mind.
And as we saw from the mini series about the sun, it was all about the sun. All of the stories with Osiris, with all of the ancient gods, about the resurrection, about Jesus, they're all a recycling of very ancient stories dating back to Sumeria and then ancient Egypt and Babylon, and then carried on forwards until the time of Jesus. And then many of those things have been recycled, but it's all about the connection to the sun and the new codes that have arrived to activate our DNA and the cosmic human part of ourselves. So this is a moment of resurrection for all of us, I think.
Right. So moving on from the new moon, this is really just for you guys to take a screenshot if you want to analyze it, because it's just a couple of days after. But this is the equinox, spring, autumn, Aries, depending on how and where you view it from. And so we can see, yes, really that it's much the same as just a few days before. This is just really for anyone who wants to look at the technical differences. So
So it actually happens with the sun at 10 degrees. So Pisces. So it's not Aries, it's Pisces. The equinox happens while the sun is in Pisces and all of the stellium we just talked about as well.
yeah. Yeah, so Not much more to say on that, really. I do think it's a rebalancing point. We already talked about it earlier. I do think the fact that it's a planetary dragon, when you understand the dragon's connection to the elementals, to the Gaia grid, to the building blocks, the primordial energies of our own DNA, of planet Earth, even, that feels pretty big.
Mhm.
Particularly Mercury going direct as well, more forwards motion after this review of, I think, mostly disclosure. Black Moon Lilith serving up the goods on that one.
Mhm.
Mars giving a little bit of energy just to make sure that we all got the point so that it can be released. Because when we're in healing and there's a release point, it's often the moment where we actually look at something that we go, oh my God, it's just duality. I signed up to this. In that moment where you remember that, suddenly whatever that thing was you didn't want to look at just doesn't have the same power to it anymore.
The two fishes represent the two energies or polarities of the same energy. So even when, say, when I do the body coding with people, it's normally the same conflict looked at from different perspectives, from one side or the other. So this is exactly the same. We're coming to that point of seeing that the two sides of war or the two sides of political parties are all always the same and have always been the same, power controlling it. And I think that the fact that Pluto in Capricorn, there at 4 degrees, is destroying institutions, governments, all political and military systems, everything is getting destroyed for a whole new system to come online. And hopefully, many of us are ready to say, okay, this is what we want. We decide this is the way it should be, rather than letting the same people do the same over and over again.
And there's a kind of a paradox here that I've seen many times is that many people want to go to New Earth and experience what it's like to be a multidimensional cosmic human, but unfortunately is still very, very much attached to those corrupt systems that we call governance, finance, education, healthcare. And it's kind of cognitive dissonance to the fore. It's like I want to go forwards and experience, but I don't want to let go of the things that I don't really like. And it's that old adage of that maybe some people are running better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And of course, we're very much in that kind of biblical moment with all of these energies to the fore. So I would suggest that a lot of this is just about surrender and trusting in something much bigger than yourself, which would be God, the creator, the principles of the Christ consciousness, which are very present at the moment as the way forwards. That's what I use in my anchor points every day. Is I'm not a religious person at all, but I do very much subscribe to those energies because they help me. So that's it really on the astrology. We will have a quick look at the planet of the Wavespell, which is Cleavers. I will be featuring this in a much deeper dive in the coming weeks as part of that series. But this is a planet that's appearing in our garden right now and should be appearing in most people's in the coming weeks. It is Gallium Aperine, otherwise known as Cleavers, or more humorously, Sticky Willy. It is a primo lymphatic cleanser. It is anti-inflammatory, and it's a blood cleanser. I would suggest those three facts alone make it a very, very useful plant right now. I do think we all need to probably cleanse out most of our internal systems. Especially some of us suffering from aches and pains, myself included, perhaps have some inflammation in the joints, could be from dirty blood or could be from anything from our environment at the moment, to be honest. Um, Also, something else that it's useful for that people are suffering from is insomnia and sleep issues. It can help with that. And when you were showing the pictures earlier and talking about Pisces, this plant, I'd already put it there, but I hadn't thought of it from this perspective. It's a plant in magical terms known for binding and undoing binding spells because of its ability. If anyone's ever walked through a field that has cleavers in it, you will come back with most of it stuck to your socks because it has those little binding leaves and the stickiness on the stem. And so, of course, we always retro engineer back into the energetic realms what a plant does in 3D. And so it makes sense that this is perhaps one to undo any unhelpful binds from the past. Very much, again, that Black Moon Lilith square in the nodes is a good opportunity to release karma, maybe some karmic experiences from time misspent in the underworld. I'm sure quite a few of us know all about that. But the underworld is now no more. There is no place for the underworld in the new earth. It was there for a reason. That's probably going to be another video in itself. But I would say that this plant is one that can really help right now. And most of all, it can be used in many ways. But as we've shared in the video that you can see in the YouTube membership, actually, how to make a cold press. Super easy to make, and actually makes a really quite delicious and refreshing, almost kind of like a cucumber tasting drink, which does all of the above things and many, many more. But I will be going into this in much more detail, looking at its quantum qualities in the coming weeks. Do you know this plant, Bella? I got you to drink it last year,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah, I'd
drink.
like to. You
Yeah.
drink it. Very refreshing.
Yeah, and as we can see from the image on the right, it does many other things too, which you can read for yourself. But I will be going into those in a bit more detail with those of you that would like to learn about that. So that's really it for this edition, I think. Yes, of course, the Sacred Book of Nature is the follow-on from Nature's Gift. Nature's Gift is the healing transmission that Zach talked about. The Sacred Book of Nature is the soul star activation that he talked about, and it is quite the process. We are now into volume 2. You can join this at any time, and we are learning to channel. Basically, it's not quite what we expected. We thought we were going to be doing, but lo and behold, we're learning to channel many beings, including elementals and plant beings, and most of all, learning to channel ourselves, our higher selves, and past and future selves.
Yep.
Anything you want to say, Bella, about the book?
No, that I'm loving it, and lots of the people in the tribe are part of it as well, and we're very happy to be collaborating.
Yeah, and of course, Nature's Gift is the a very easy and affordable entrance to that, but it's also a really great way to start up your own apothecary and learn to receive transmissions. And in doing so, this is actually full of activation codes that were embedded there by myself and Bella, and also Zach and all of the plants. And the idea is not to get into your left brain and make lots of notes, mostly just sit there and receive. It's actually quite a beautiful little story and has been developed into basically a much bigger, more expansive process in the sacred book. So you can also watch videos on our YouTube platform about those in more detail. So that's pretty much it for this show. Perhaps a little longer than we normally do, but lots of information as usual. And of course, if you have either done the Eagle Ascends or have purchased the Sacred Alchemy of the Magical 13 workshop, you can work with that workshop and this edition of Quantum Compass to navigate your own personal journey for the next 13 days. So
And I'd say that one of the main intentions that you could have for this specific wave spell of the yellow magnetic human is to activate the higher aspects of yourself as a cosmic human, as a galactic citizen, as the beings that are going to be creating new earth. So this is a great wave spell to do so. Many of us have received many of those codes. This is a perfect moment to receive. And for that, you need to be like the Jaguar to be able to discern and stay away from the chaos of what's happening in the world, but still get to the other side of this process.
right, definitely. For me personally, my intention for this wave spell is whatever parts of me are still not a fully activated cosmic human, I now ask that they are in the most appropriate of ways for me. And in the Trisana or a 13-day wave spell, if you make a very clear intention, in our experience, it pretty much comes true. It certainly has so far, often a bit more spectacularly than I had anticipated, but that's the power of intention, and we're moving into a phase where intention is everything. As indeed it's always been, but we'll be living in an environment that will be much more receptive, as somebody once said, a user-friendly environment. So with that in mind, we look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Please do check out the new plant regular ongoing deep dives over on the QPW website. All of the links are in the show notes. That's it from me.
And Bella.
In
In
Lakesh.
Lakesh. We'll see you in the next show.
See you on the other side.
Bye.
Bye for now.